Malaysia hits record high COVID-19 new cases of 432. Conditional MCO imposed on Kota Kinabalu, Penampang and Putatan. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. And you're watching, of course, News at 10 with me, Muhammad Amin Carlos. Well, Malaysia confirmed 432 new COVID-19 infections today, the highest daily increase since the pandemic hit the country. It involves 429 local transmissions and 3 imported cases. Well, Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah in a statement today said Kedah had the most number of new cases with 231 infections, followed by Sabah with 130. In other states recording new cases are Selangor 34, Kuala Lumpur 7, Terengganu 5 and Labuan 4. Perak, Putrajaya and Johor all report 2 new cases each. Meanwhile, Negeri Sembilan, Pahang, Kelantan, Melaka and Sarawak all have 1 new case each. The sole case in Sarawak today is an imported case. Now, Malaysia also discharged 57 patients, which means the total number of recoveries is 10,340. The total number of active cases in the country has now gone up to 2,336 cases. Cumulatively, the country's total number of cases since the outbreak began in January is 12,813. Tan Sri Dr. Nur Hisham said currently 32 people are being treated at intensive care units, with 8 of them requiring ventilator support. No fatalities were reported, which means the COVID-19 death toll in the country remains at 136. Well, Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Religious Affairs, Dato' Sri Dr. Zulkifli Muhammad Al-Bakri, has tested positive for COVID-19. The minister confirmed this on his Facebook page today, adding that he is currently receiving treatment. Well, the minister said to this moment his health is good and he prayed to Allah for the recovery of all Malaysians who have contracted COVID-19. Dato' Sri Dr. Zulkifli also urged those who were present at the events he attended between 24th September and 4th October to undergo COVID-19 screenings at the nearest health clinic. It is understood that the minister had participated in campaigning in Sabah during the recently concluded state election. He is believed to have attended a special National Security Council meeting last week. Well, meanwhile, Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin will also undergo self-quarantine at his premises for 14 days on the advice of the Health Ministry. This comes after he chaired a meeting attended by Dato' Sri Dr. Zulkifli, who tested positive for COVID-19. Well, in a statement today, the Prime Minister said after the risk evaluation by the Health Ministry, those who have been identified as a close contact during the meeting have been issued a home surveillance order, or HSO, for 14 days from 3rd October and will need to wear the surveillance wristband. The Premier stressed that the matter would not interfere with the government's affairs, adding he will continue to work from home and chair meetings through online video conferences. Tan Sri Muhyiddin also said as a precautionary measure, he had been undergoing COVID-19 swab tests every 2 weeks since April and had tested negative all the time. He also underwent 3 COVID-19 tests in the last 3 weeks on 22nd, 26th and 29th September and tested negative. Well, the government will impose a conditional movement control order, that's CMCO, on Kota Kinabalu, Penampang and Putatan in Sabah beginning 12:01 a.m. on 7th October. Well, the move is to contain the spread of COVID-19 and enable targeted detection activities. Well, Senior Minister for Security, Dato' Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, in a statement said the decision was made during a special ministerial meeting on COVID-19 management after taking into consideration views from Health Ministry representatives and suggestions from the Sabah state government. Well, it said all movement to and from the areas is banned except for essential services, including factories and chains related to the services sector. The International Trade and Industry Ministry will provide a list of services in the area which will be affected or exempted. He said that throughout the CMCO, no one is allowed to enter Sabah except for citizens of Sabah, holders of passes issued by the Sabah Immigration Department for those living in the peninsula, Sarawak and Labuan, as well as couples involved in providing essential services. Others, he said, are required to obtain special permits from the Sabah state government. Well, meanwhile, police had arrested 979 people nationwide yesterday for flouting the Recovery Movement Control Order, the RMCO. Well, Dato Sri Ismail Sabri said of the total, 516 were detained for not keeping physical distance, which was the main offense. 277 failed to provide the tools or record personal details, and 163 for not wearing face masks. And other offenses include operating beyond permitted hours, indulging in activities at pubs and nightclubs, refusing to undergo COVID-19 screening, and leaving TEMCO areas without permission. Well, of the total detained, 944 individuals were issued with compounds, 32 were remanded, while the rest were released on bail. And a total of 53,266 inspections on SOP compliances were held by the police yesterday. Anob Benting, the senior minister, said 48 illegal migrants, 2 boat skippers and 4 smugglers were detained. While on mandatory quarantine, a total of 8,698 individuals are currently undergoing mandatory quarantine, while 106 were sent to hospital for treatment. Well, 2 schools in Terengganu have been ordered to close temporarily from today until 11th October after their students tested positive for COVID-19. Now, the 2 schools are Sekolah Kebangsaan Kompleks Seberang Takir and Sekolah Menengah Kebangsaan Kompleks Seberang Takir in Kuala Nerus. Well, Terengganu Education Department Director Salim Abdul Ghani said the closure of these schools is being implemented on the advice of the Terengganu Health Department to enable disinfection activities to be carried out. He added COVID-19 screening would be also carried out on students and teachers who are in close contact with COVID-19 patients at the school. SMK Complex Seberang Takir has a total of 765 students and 82 teachers, while SK Complex Seberang Takir has 817 students and 63 teachers. Last Friday, SK Padang Kemunting, also in Kuala Nerus, was ordered to shut after one of its teachers was confirmed positive for COVID-19. And while the day before, a Kemas kindergarten in Bandar Al Mutafi Belasha, Dungun, was also closed after a staff member tested positive for the virus. University Utara Malaysia, UUM, immediately closed its main campus in Sintog last night after a student tested positive for COVID-19. Well, it is understood that the student in question returned from Sabah on 20th September, which was before the mandatory screening and home quarantine of arrivals from the state was imposed on 27th September. While UUM Vice-Chancellor Professor Dato Dr. Ahmad Bashawir Abdul Ghani said the university has taken necessary precautionary measures following the development, including imposing compulsory quarantine for affected individuals. Now, the Health Ministry has already been informed of the situation so that it can determine the next steps forward. Well, it said the university had postponed all physical and face-to-face registration for its new intake of students, adding that all new student registrations will now take place online as no one is allowed on campus. Coming up, rubber production incentive activated for September. Well, a total of 150 medical officers who are currently on contract have been offered permanent positions in health offices and facilities in Sarawak. Announcing this, Health Minister Dato Sri Dr. Adham Baba said from the 150 officers who were offered permanent appointments, 44% are those born in Sarawak, while 56% are officers from Peninsula, where they have also given full commitment to deliver services to Sarawakians. In a statement, the minister said the placement of these officers officers will only be at health offices and health facilities in Sarawak, taking into account factors such as job vacancies, while the date of reporting for duty at the Sarawak Health Department is on 12th October. The appointment offer is in line with applications for permanent appointments that were approved by the Public Services Commission of Malaysia on 21st September. Well, it said this permanent appointment has been agreed by the Public Services Commission to be backdated starting from 15 May 2017, which is the same as the date that the officers reported for duty as officers appointed on contract. Malaysian rubber smallholders may apply for the Rubber Production Incentive, or IPG, and this is based on their September 2020 production until 31st October. Well, the statement by the Malaysian Rubber Board, or MRB, the activated IPG rate for September 2020 is 40 cent per kilogram for the Peninsula, 70 cent per kilogram for Sabah, and 60 cent per kilogram for Sarawak. The average farm gate price for Kaplump in Peninsula stood at 2 ringgit 10 cent per kilogram for the Peninsula, 1 ringgit 80 cent per kilogram in Sabah, and 1 ringgit 90 cent per kilogram in Sarawak. The MRB said starting from January 2019, the IPG will be activated if the average monthly SMR 20 free on board, that's FOB price, is at 6 ringgit 10 cent per kilogram, or when the farm gate price goes below 2 ringgit 50 cent per kilogram. Istana Negara strongly reprimands any action by irresponsible parties who use or mention the name of Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al Mustafa Billah Shah and the palace to spread fake news. Comptroller of the royal household, Dato' Ahmad Fadil Samsudin, said Istana Negara viewed seriously the acts of irresponsible parties in using the name or involving His Majesty and Istana Negara for their political or personal interests. Now, in a statement today, Dato' Ahmad Fadil said such irresponsible acts have not only tarnished the credibility of His Majesty and Istana Negara, but could also raise concerns among the people and threaten the peace in the country from various angles. He said Istana Negara would not hesitate to report the matter to the police and the Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission, or MCMC, for further action under Section 211 and 233 of the Communications and Multimedia Act 1998 if necessary. Now, at the same time, Istana Negara called on the people not to panic or believe the fake statements. Dato' Ahmad Fadil said Istana Negara advised all quarters not to share such fake news to avoid facing actions by the police as well as the MCMC. While no additional Royal Malaysian Police or PDRM officers and personnel were sent to Sabah to assist in the duties and operations of the State Police Contingent Headquarters. Bukit Aman Management Department Director Dato' Ramli Din said this is because the PDRM officers and personnel stationed in Sabah are adequate and they have returned to normal duties after assessing in the smooth running of the state election process.
Untuk negeri Sabah, ramai lagi anggota kita yang masih dalam kuarantin dan keputusan kuarantin ini akan diperolehi dalam tempoh yang terdekat lah. Selain daripada itu, untuk tugas-tugas operasi ini, SOP untuk tindakan-tindakan yang sedia ada ini akan dipertingkatkan, ya, untuk supaya semua pegawai-pegawai dan anggota-anggota yang terlibat dalam mana-mana operasi ini akan mengambil kira SOP ini supaya tindakan-tindakan selaras dengan SOP yang ada. Ya.
Dato' Ramli was met after a ceremony to hand over contributions from the Al Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan Foundation to PDRM members in Bukit Aman. Well, 3 policemen, an inspector and 2 corporals pleaded not guilty in Al Ustaz Sessions Court today to 2 counts of bribery. Corporal Muhammad Ashraf Mustafa, Inspector Muhammad Saidi Saka, and Corporal Muhammad Noor Firdaus Zainal, all age 33, made the plea after the charges against them were read out before Judge Murtazadi Amran. Now, on the first count, they were charged with intentionally obtaining themselves a sum of 7,800 ringgit in cash from an individual whom they knew had connection with their official duties. The offence was allegedly committed in front of the Titi Gajah KFC outlet, Kota Star, at about 8:30 p.m. on 16 July. The accused were also charged with intentionally obtaining themselves 4,000 ringgit in cash from a person whom they knew had connection with their official duties. They were alleged to have committed the offence in front of an eatery near Medan Selera Pumpong in Alor at about 3:30 p.m. on 17 September. Now, the charge was framed under Section 165 of the Penal Code, read together with Section 34 of the same law, which carries a maximum jail term of 2 years or fine or both upon conviction. Deputy Public Prosecutor Tan Siu Ping from the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, or MACC, appeared for the prosecution, while all the accused were represented by counsel Muhammad Farhan Ahmad Fadzil. The trio were allowed bail of 15,000 ringgit with one surety each and were ordered to report themselves at the nearest MACC office every month. The case is set for mention on 2nd November. And this has just come in, though the Ministry of Education has decided that a total of 122 schools in the Pondok Kinabalu, Penampang and Putatan areas in Sabah will be closed from tomorrow. Well, it said in a statement today that the decision to close the 86 primary schools, 25 secondary schools and 11 private schools was taken following the government's implementation of the Conditional Movement Control Order, CMCO, in the 3 areas effective 12:01 a.m. on 7 October. Well, the statement said schools outside the CMCO areas will go on as usual, as explained in the ministry's statement issued on 3rd October, adding that the ministry was aware of the concern among parents following the recent spike in COVID-19 cases. Well, that concludes this evening's news at 10. In our top story, Malaysia hits record high COVID-19 new cases of 432. Well, join us again at 12:30 tomorrow afternoon. I'm Mohammed Amin Carlos, and stay tuned to Saluran Berita RTM and have a pleasant evening.